The invitation arrived on thick cream-colored cardstock embossed with gold lettering that screamed expensive and exclusive. Maya Reyes turned it over in her hands, reading the words that felt like they'd been written specifically to wound her. 10-year high school reunion at the Grandview Hotel, black tie optional, successful alumni only. That last part wasn't printed on the invitation, but Maya could read between the lines. She remembered who she'd been at Jefferson High. The scholarship kid with thrift store clothes and a stutter that got worse when people stared. She remembered the laughter, the whispered jokes, the way Chelsea Morrison and her circle had made every day feel like survival training. Maya's finger hovered over the RSVP button on her phone. Decline, her instinct screamed. But something else stirred inside her, something forged in the years since she'd walked out of those halls for the last time. She clicked accept and set the phone down, her hands steady despite the memories clawing at her mind. She had changed in ways that no reunion committee could possibly understand. In ways that had nothing to do with design addresses or corporate job titles. The night of the reunion, the Grandview parking lot filled with luxury cars that reflected the golden hour sun like mirrors of achievement and status. Inside, former classmates mingled with champagne glasses and practiced smiles, trading stories of promotions and vacation homes, each trying to prove they'd won at the game of life. Chelsea Morrison stood at the center of it all, her engagement ring catching light like a small star, her laugh loud and performative. She'd married a hedge fund manager, she told anyone who would listen, and they'd just bought their third property. When someone mentioned that Maya Reyes had actually accepted the invitation, Chelsea's eyes lit up with malicious delight. "Oh, this should be entertaining," she said to her old friends. "Remember how she used to eat lunch alone in the library? I wonder if she's still wearing clothes from Goodwill." The group laughed, their cruelty unchanged by a decade of supposed maturity. They had invited Maya specifically for this, to remind themselves that they were better, more successful, more worthy. They needed someone to look down on to feel elevated. The evening progressed with speeches and toasts, and people kept checking their watches, wondering when Maya would arrive to provide the entertainment they'd anticipated. Then, at exactly 8 o'clock, a sound cut through the music and conversation, a rhythmic thumping that grew louder and louder until the crystal chandeliers began to tremble. Someone rushed to the window and gasped. Others followed, crowding to see what was happening. In the parking lot, illuminated by floodlights, an Apache helicopter was descending, its rotors creating a windstorm that set off car alarms and sent decorative plants tumbling across the pavement. The helicopter touched down with practiced precision, and the side door opened. Maya Reyes stepped out, not in an evening gown but in her army dress uniform, the Navy Cross prominent among her ribbons, rows of decorations that told stories of courage most people couldn't imagine. She'd left her garrison cap in the aircraft, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun, her bearing that of someone who had walked through fire and emerged forged into something unbreakable. She crossed the parking lot with confident strides, and the hotel staff rushed to hold the doors open, their eyes wide with respect and awe. The ballroom fell silent as Maya entered, every eye fixed on her, and in that moment, all their rehearsed stories about promotions and bonuses felt small and hollow. Chelsea Morrison's smile froze on her face, her champagne glass trembling slightly in her hand. Maya walked through the crowd, and people parted instinctively, the way people always part for someone who carries real authority, real presence. She approached the microphone that had been set up for speeches, and the reunion coordinator, flustered and uncertain, stepped aside. Maya's voice, once hesitant and stuttering, now carried clear and strong. "I almost didn't come tonight," she began, her eyes scanning the faces before her. 10 years ago, many of you made me feel like I didn't belong. Like I was ungood enough because my clothes were inexpensive or my family did have money. You taught me that people could be cruel for no reason other than it made them feel powerful." She paused, letting the words settle. "So I left here determined to find out who I really was when nobody was watching, when there was no social hierarchy to hide behind. I joined the army. I became a pilot. I flew combat missions in places where the only thing that mattered was whether you could do the job, whether you could be trusted when everything went wrong, whether you had the courage to put others before yourself." Maya's hand touched the Navy Cross on her chest. "This medal was awarded after I flew a damaged helicopter into hostile territory to extract a special forces team that was surrounded and running out of ammunition. I took fire that should have brought us down, but I kept that bird in the air because 12 people were counting on me. Not because of where I went to high school or what brand of clothes I wore, but because I refused to leave anyone behind." She looked directly at Chelsea, and there was no anger in her gaze, only a profound understanding of how small some people chose to remain. "I didn't come here to show off or to prove anything. I came because I wanted to see if any of you had grown into people worth knowing. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, you'd become kinder, more compassionate, more aware that everyone you meet is fighting battles you know nothing about." The silence was absolute. Some faces showed shame, others showed awe, and a few, like Chelsea's, showed the dawning realization that they had spent 10 years becoming successful at all the wrong things. Maya turned and walked back toward the exit, her mission complete. As she reached the door, a voice called out. It was David Chen, a quiet kid who'd also been on the margins, now a teacher. "Maya, wait." Some of us would actually love to hear your stories, the real ones. She paused, turned and saw in his face something genuine. A few others stepped forward, people who had also been hurt by the casual cruelty of high school, people who had grown into their empathy rather than their entitlement. Maya smiled, the first real smile of the evening. Then let's get out of this place, she said, and find somewhere we can actually talk. As the Apache lifted off later that night, carrying Maya back to base, she looked down at the Grandview Hotel, its lights already seeming smaller and less significant. She'd learned the most important lesson that life could teach. That true success wasn't measured in possessions or status, but in who you became when tested in how you treated others and in whether you used your strength to lift people up or tear them down. The 10-year reunion had ended, but for Maya Reyes, the real victory had been won years ago, in moments of choice and courage that no ballroom could contain.